here is my layout that I'm going to share with you a few techniques that I did so that you might get some ideas for your layouts. This is really classic of my style, not having anything on it but the photos. The background is a photo, and I'm going to share that with you. And everything is made from photos with the exception of this title, which is made with an atomic cupcake cutout action that I like to use. And so what I want to share with you first is this tear down here in the corner. Tears, don't have to be really fancy. They can just be little bits in the corners that are torn off, and just to give it a grungy guy look and not really affect the photo much at all. So I have another file already ready here, and all it has is the background and this photo on it, so I can play with it to show you how I tore this corner and how quickly this can be done, and a few of the little principles that I utilize to make it look more realistic. First, let's just grab the lasso tool. Photo layer is the active layer, and I just randomly drew a little bit, real quick. It didn't have to be fast. To select an area, that corner, I'm going to press Control J on my keyboard, and that put that selection on a new layer. There it is all by itself. Now what I need to do is to get this shape now off of the original photo. So I'm going to hold down my Control key and click on the thumbnail of this corner shape to get that selection once again. Then I'm going to go back to my photo layer. Now what I might want to do is copy that layer and turn off the original in case I want to start over. So I'm going to work on this copy and then just hit delete on the keyboard. Control D to deselect. And now you can, even if you look, you can even see it sort of cut there, and it is. Let me get my move tool and show you. Just move it away a little bit, and it's cut off of there. The next step is to add the tear, and I'm going to hit Control J on my keyboard to duplicate this layer of the rip. I'm going to make sure the lower layer is active. I'm going to hit Control U. Now I'm sharing with you a lot of keyboard shortcuts because I use a lot of them, but Control U brings up the hue and saturation, and I'm going to just lighten it way down. Okay, now you can't see that I lightened it. It's there underneath this layer. But now I'm going to use my left arrow key and just nudge it a little bit over to the right. Okay, next I'm going to make this tear look a little bit more realistic by adding some noise. I'm using the monochromatic. I've already adjusted it from playing before. Then I'm going to add some texture. I'm going to add the crackler texture. And you can see now it already looks a little bit realistic. To make it look even a little bit more realistic, I'm going to go to the top layer of the cutoff piece, get my smudge tool activated, get a splatter brush, and just begin pushing some of that right into the tear. I think it looks better if we use luminosity. I almost forgot about that. And sometimes this goes all the way through, and you see where there's areas where you might want to smudge it all the way through. to the, especially down here in the corners, where you might want to smudge it all the way through the white and out. And so I'm not going to spend much more time on it, but basically there it is. Now if you want to back out to print level and look at it, and if you need to use your arrow key, let me make my move tool the active tool and nudge that out so a little more white shows, you can do that. But you get it to where it looks realistic now. You can see that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to click on the top layer of the corner, right click and merge down, and then quickly add a drop shadow to it. Now the last step on this that I would do, now normally when something tears, you only see the ripped part on one piece of the paper, not the other. And so I'm not even going to add a torn edge to this side of the tear. I could add just a very little bit, especially maybe where I pushed this smudged the top layer out. It might be white over here on this side, but for my purposes, my layout's just for personal layout. I'm not going to take the time to do that. What you would want to do next is to position this so it looks ripped, and so I'm going to move this over to the photo again and turn it a little bit one way or the other. It's gonna have, you're gonna want it to be so it looks like it was once attached. See, and you almost have to play with this a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. Just like that. So it's sort of like having been torn off. Now the next step of what I did, I don't think I turned it that much in my other one. There we go. The next step I did to make it look more realistic was to add a custom drop shadow. And so I'm going to hold down with the control key, click on this layer to get a selection of it, create a new layer underneath it, fill the selection with 50% gray, and I have some tutorials on this, so I'm going kind of fast. I'm going to apply a Gaussian blur to that layer. I'm going to change it to multiply. Let's deselect. There we go. The blur doesn't work when with it not deselected yet. And now I have a custom drop shadow under there, but I want to play with that a little bit more. Let's take this luminosity off the smudge tool and go back to just a standard brush. And I'm going to make it larger here and just kind of smudge out that drop shadow so that it looks like this piece is bent up a little bit. And you zoom out to get more of the full effect. And so there is more of the custom drop shadow. I want it to look like this whole edge here is out. Now I did find that the 50% gray with this particular background, it's going to be different with each of your backgrounds, is not showing up the shadow quite well. So I hit Control U again and I brought the brightness down, and you can see as I did that, that really just popped right off that page. And so there's my simple tear, and that was pretty quick to do, and you can see it looks realistic. And we're going to go back to the original layout so you can see how I did this one, which I took a little more time with. I actually have custom drop shadows all the way around the photo. I have it around this one and in this corner. I have custom drop shadows around this mat, and all this mat is the background. I ran out of time on that last video, and I have a few more things to show you about this layout for layout tips that you might get inspiration for your layouts. As I was saying, I often only use photos for my layouts, and don't even need kits or elements. And this background photo that I have here, I used to make this mat. I'm going to go ahead and turn this mat off. And all I did was to use my rectangular marquee tool, and I drew a rectangle. Hit Control J to put that on its own layer, and then I'm going to hit Control U, and I just began playing around with the colors. Began changing the colors. I made the saturation higher, and I found, I think it was an orange color, made it darker. There we go. Getting close to what I had before. And when you get a color you like, I just simply added a drop shadow, and then I even added a custom drop shadow. Let's turn this off. And then I even added the custom drop shadow to that to make it kind of pop off the page, similar to that custom drop shadow that I was showing you that I made on this tear. Now I have one more thing to show you about this layout, and that's this white area here. And I'm going to turn it off so you can see the difference. And there's the layout without it, and there's the layout with it, and you can see that it really makes a big difference on this layout. And so I'm going to show you how I created that. Let's turn it off. And it started out just as me wanting to have a mat underneath these photos in order to group them together. And that's the way things happen with me. I just play and they kind of evolve. And so I made a rectangular selection. And that's a little bit big, but I'm going to fix that in a minute. Got a new layer. White is my foreground color. Get the paint bucket and just fill that in and deselect. Control D to deselect those marching ants. Now let's make this mat just a little bit smaller so it fits kind of right under my photos. Go ahead and give it a drop shadow. And so this is where I was at, and I said, it's just not working. That white is just grabbing all that focal attention. Sure, the photos are underneath it, are, on top of it, are showing now, but that white just is not working. And so I needed to play with it some more. So I played with the blending modes, and I chose the overlay, and immediately it did this really funky stuff. And I said, okay, that's really guy cool, but it still wasn't quite right. Isn't that cool how the white paper, how that stuff underneath comes through when I do the overlay with the white? Just too cool. You never know what's going to happen when you start playing with blending modes. So anyway, this still didn't look quite right, and so I continued to play. I grabbed my eraser tool, got this paint splatter, that brush that I seem to be using a lot lately, and then made it a lot larger, and changed its opacity to somewhere in the halfway mark. Wasn't an exact science. And just began kind of erasing, because I wanted to just get rid of the edges. I didn't want that, and kind of just lightly did it out in here. The opacity might be a little, so I'm going to hit the back button. I love the back button. A little too high. I'm going to lower it and just take this out a little bit more. And I even took out some of this edge over here and the edging down here. I just didn't want to see the edge, and that's how I made it. But here's the original. You can see still looks a lot better, and simple, easy, kind of blended it on in. You don't see the edges of the paper anymore. The lines is what I'm talking about around it, and it just kind of made for a really cool effect. And I could have added some more of those elsewhere on the layout, but I kind of decided I liked it just that way. So I hope you've learned a few more tips, and I look forward to seeing what you do with your layouts. Let me know if you use any of these tips.